Hello students and welcome to my English class. I would like to begin by saying the famous proverb, honesty is the best policy. Honesty implies being truthful. It also means to develop a practice of speaking the truth throughout your life. Yes, my dear students, today I shall narrate you a story based on the value honesty. Lesson number 23, The Two Merchants of Seri. Dear students, listen to the story very carefully. Once upon a time, in a place called Seri, there lived a merchant. He went from town to town selling pots and pans and other things made of brass and tin. The meaning of brass is bright yellow metal made by combining copper and zinc. He travelled every day with another merchant who also sold brass and tinware. The meaning of tinware is things of tin or metal. But this other man was greedy. The meaning of greedy is selfish. When he sold something, he sold it at a very high price. But when he bought something, he tried to give as little as possible. When the two merchants went into a town, they divided the streets between them. Each one went up and down the streets he had chosen, calling tinware for sale, brass for sale. People came out to their doorsteps and bought or traded with them. Trade means exchange something for something else. Only after one merchant had finished his business on that street did the other one made his rounds there. In those days, people did not always use money to buy things. Sometimes they exchanged things of the same value. In one house there lived a poor old woman and her granddaughter. The family had once been rich, but now the only thing they had left of all their riches was a dish made of gold. However, the grandmother did not know it was a golden dish. The dish stood on a shelf among the other pots and pans and was not often used. Now the greedy merchant passed this house calling, "Buy my water jars, buy my pans, buy my tinware." The granddaughter said, "Oh grandmother, do buy something for me." "My dear," said the old woman, "we are too poor to buy anything. I have not anything to trade even." "Grandmother, see, I have found this old dish among other pots and pans on the shelf. We don't even use it. Can we trade this? Perhaps the merchant will take it and give us something nice for it." The old woman called the merchant and showed him the dish, saying, "Will you take this, sir, and give this little girl here something for it?" The greedy man took the dish and scratched its side with a needle. He came to know immediately that it was a golden dish. But he wanted to get it for nothing from the old woman. So he said, "What is this worth? Not even a copper coin." He threw the dish on the ground and went away. The crafty merchant was planning to come back after some time and buy the dish for a few copper coins, as if doing a favor to the old lady. Crafty means cunning, clever but dishonest person. After a while, the honest merchant finished the rounds on his streets and entered the street where the old lady lived. He passed her house calling, "Buy my water jars, buy my tinware, buy my brass." The little girl heard him and begged her grandmother to see what this merchant would give for the dish. Begged means requested. "My child," said the grandmother, "the merchant who was just here threw the dish on the ground and went away. I have nothing else to offer in trade. Offer means to give. But grandmother said the girl, "This one looks pleasant. Ask him. Perhaps he'll give us something for it." "Call him then and show it to him," said the old woman. As soon as the merchant took the dish in his hands, he knew it was of gold. Immediately he said, "This is a golden dish. It is worth more than all my money and all my wares." Wares means articles or things for sale. "I'll bring enough money tomorrow and then buy it from you." The old woman was greatly surprised. She was impressed by the honesty and goodness of the merchant. "Take this dish and give me the money tomorrow," she said. The honest merchant kept all his wares and money with the old woman and took the dish. He left himself only enough money for the boat ride that he had to take on his way back. After some time, the greedy merchant went back to the house where he had seen the golden dish and said, "Bring that dish to me and I will give you something for it." "No," said the grandmother. "You said the dish was worthless, but another honest merchant had paid a great price for it, so I gave it to him. You should not try to take advantage of the poor and needy people." What could the greedy merchant say? He paid the price for his dishonesty and greed. Moral of the story is, honesty is the best policy. I shall now explain the story in detail. Once upon a time, in a place called Seri, there lived a merchant. He went from town to town selling pots and pans and other things made of brass and tin. He traveled every day with another merchant who also sold brass and tinware. Dear children, this is a story of an honest merchant who used to sell pots and pans and other things made of brass and tin. There was another merchant whom he used to travel with. Both of them were different from each other. They were totally different. One was an honest merchant and the other one was a different person. He was a dishonest merchant. He was a very greedy and sold his wares at a very high price. But when he brought something, he tried to give as little as possible. Since both of them had the same items to sell, they wondered how they can both sell it in the same town and earn well. So they thought of a plan, and hence they decided to divide the streets between them. Only after one merchant had finished his business on that street did the other one made his rounds there. In those days, people did not always use money to buy things. Sometimes they exchanged things of the same value, which is also known as barter system. Now, dear children, for example, if you want to buy a chocolate, you will go to the shopkeeper and you will first give him money, and then the shopkeeper will give you the chocolate which you want. But in those days, it was not like this. People exchanged things to get things in return of the same value. Can you see in the picture? There is a man over here who is wanting to give this merchant something so that the merchant can give him something in return. In a house, there lived a poor old woman and her granddaughter who once was rich. But now the only thing they had left with them was a dish made of gold. Children do crave for toys and many such other things. Dear children, now when you want a toy or a game or something else, you'll run to your parents and ask your parents to give it to you all. to buy it for y'all or to purchase it for y'all. Similarly, this granddaughter also wanted something from her grandmother. So she asked her grandmother to buy her something. When she heard a merchant passing the house calling, "Buy my water jars, buy my pans, buy my tinware," as the grandmother had nothing but only the golden dish left with her to trade, she decided to ask this greedy merchant for something nice for her granddaughter in exchange of this golden dish. Now this grandmother never knew this dish was golden dish. She just thought that this dish is not being in use. So she wanted to give it to the greedy merchant so that she can get something in exchange and she could give it to her granddaughter. When the merchant took the dish and scratched its side with a needle, he immediately came to know it was a golden dish. But as usual, he wanted to get it for nothing from the old woman. So he said that this dish is not worth of even a copper coin. On seeing this, he threw the dish on the ground and planned to come back after some time and buy the dish for a few copper coins as if doing a great favor to the old lady. Now, as I told you all, this merchant was a very dishonest merchant. He was not only dishonest but he was very crafty, cunning, and he wanted to take advantage of the old lady and her granddaughter by cheating them. Knowing that the dish was a golden dish, he fooled them and wanted to try to cheat them by saying this dish is worthless. He also planned that he'll come later on and he'll buy this plate for a few copper coins. After a while, the honest merchant finished the rounds on his streets and entered the street where the old lady lived. He passed her house calling, "Buy my water jars, buy my tinware, buy my brass." On seeing another merchant on his rounds, this little girl was super excited. She again asked her grandmother to see what the other merchant would give for the dish. But the grandmother told her granddaughter that as the previous merchant threw the dish, this merchant also might do the same. She also told her that she had nothing more to give in exchange. But the girl tried to convince her grandmother by saying that this merchant looks pleasant. Perhaps he'll give us something for it. So the old woman asked the girl to show it to the merchant. As soon as the merchant took the dish in his hands, he knew it was of gold. Immediately he said, "This is a golden dish. It is worth more than all my money and all my wares." Now, this merchant was a very honest merchant. On looking at this dish, he came to know that this dish was not an ordinary dish. It was a golden dish. And as you all know, children, that the cost of gold is very high. Gold is very, very costly. So, he told the grandmother that I do not have enough of wares and enough of money to give you in exchange of the golden dish. The old woman was greatly surprised. She was impressed by the honesty and goodness of this honest merchant. Dear children, few hours earlier, this old woman was told by another merchant that this dish is worthless. But when she showed the same dish to the other merchant who recently came to her doorstep, she came to know that this dish was not an ordinary one. It was not worthless, but it was of a high price. It was a golden dish. And she was very impressed and very surprised by the honesty of this merchant. The honest merchant kept all his wares and money with the old woman and took the dish. He left himself only enough money for the boat ride that he had to take on his way back. Now this honest merchant, He thought that he will come tomorrow and he will bring enough of money and enough of wares and give it to the old lady and her granddaughter in exchange of this golden dish. But he also had to take keep little money for himself so that he can return back home. After some time, the greedy merchant went back to the house where he had seen the golden dish and said, "Bring that dish to me and I will give you something for it." Now, as planned earlier, the greedy merchant again came back to the old lady's house. He asked the old lady for the golden dish and he told her that he will give something in return of that worthless dish. "No," said the grandmother, "you said the dish was worthless, but another honest merchant who paid a great price for it, so I gave it to him. You should not take advantage of the poor and needy people." What could the greedy merchant say? He paid the price for his dishonesty and greed. Now the grandmother told this dishonest merchant that the dish was not worthless. It was a golden dish. But she told him that there was another honest merchant who came and paid the great price for the golden dish. This greedy merchant was left speechless. He did not know what to say. He had to pay the price for his dishonesty and greed. Dear students, honesty is a quality that we all should aim to have in life because it helps us to stay in the right direction even during difficult and challenging times. The character of an honest person can't be questioned and society gives the utmost respect to such people who are truthful, loyal and courageous. Honesty is the best policy for the reason that without honesty, people wouldn't be able to rely on you. If you're honest with your friends, your family, your relatives, you're proving to them that you can be trusted. So children, be honest so that everyone can trust you.